So questions? Right in front, we like that. That's an awesome question.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, so the question was, how long does it take to, I mean, it's kind of a two-part question. One, how long does it take to get something like this spun up? And then two, how long does it take before it's actually useful to me? And so, I guess I would say it sort of depends. Having said that, the key is really, if you already have systems in place, if you already have a point of sale in your tasting room, and you already have an online store, depending on what those systems are, Sam can probably wire those together a couple months, less.
Well, I don't know about actually wiring them together, but certainly what we can do is pull data out of them, and depending on what systems you've got. So yeah, if you've got historical data, you can populate things pretty quickly.
So then the question becomes, if your data's good, and how far back does it go? If it goes back, let's say a couple, like this example I just showed here, where I'm only going back to the beginning of this year, and I can already start doing some pretty interesting things with it. Now, it might be the off season, so maybe my example's not 100% perfect, but if you have data that goes back, let's say 6 months, from my perspective, that gives you a lot to work with. And obviously, if you can go back even further, then things could become even more interesting. But I think once you get in the 3 to 6 month range, then for something like this, it becomes really powerful. For something like a dashboard, it might be powerful right away. Like, hey, we opened up, maybe we open up new states January 1st, and well, how are they performing for us? Like, I don't have to wait to see that data. I can see that now. So things like, customer segmentation and targeted messaging, probably 3 to 6 months, and you're off, and then you have stuff you can work with. For something like a dashboard, you might have if your data goes back, you'll have something you can look at, and that might give you some insights right away. Great question.
Okay, next question.
My question is, why does the wine industry need its own specific CRM tool?
So, great question. Basically, the question is, what's different about the wine industry than everybody else from a CRM perspective? And CRM, if those aren't heard the term, stands for customer relation management. It's the idea of, who are my customers? How do I interact with them? What do they do with me? What do I do with them? If you call an airline, especially now, they use a CRM system to understand what you bought, what you talked about when you called them last time, or your credit card. A lot of companies use CRM systems. From a wine-specific CRM, you're right, you don't need a wine-specific CRM. There's lots of CRMs that you could use. The Nexternal platform, which is what I was demonstrating, since this is what I work on, we of course have CRM tools built in, and we really focus on the wine industry. Having said that, the biggest CRM company that most people have heard of is called Salesforce.com. I'm sure many wineries. Salesforce tends to be expensive, so it's probably more big wineries who use it, but yeah, you do not need to use a winery-specific CRM. As long as the CRM can be customized to your needs, then yeah, you're in good shape.
Actually, I'd like to build on this and say that, and I'll try and keep it brief because this is a deep topic for me that has really been a challenge I've faced for 20 years really, is that I've wanted to encompass everything some vertical needed. And so when I started this company, actually, in 2012, my idea was we were going to close the loop. We were going to do commerce automation, so you had one set of customers, products, and orders across the channels. And we were going to do that for small to medium-sized businesses. That can't be too hard, is it? And found out pretty quickly that's impossible. I don't care if you're IBM or who you are. There's just too many differences between different verticals to be able to say you're covering everything. So the idea of anybody knows what an ERP system is. That's the idea of an ERP system was this is one system that would handle everything a business needs. It's a lie. The ERP system never does. So people spend tons of money implementing an ERP system that's supposed to handle the whole organization, and then find they need to spend a whole bunch more money integrating it into other systems that they still need. So what we've finally figured out is that, and it was School of Hard Knocks over the last 8 years, working with wineries to figure out, you know what, the only way to really do that, to really comprehensively support, you can't be everything to everyone, is to deeply verticalize. So we focused in on wineries in the Finger Lakes, and then pretty quickly as wineries, craft beverage producers, and said, what does this business need end to end? So the CRM system is just one piece of your business. You want everything to be tied together, in particular around regulatory compliance and other issues. And what we found is just wineries are pretty complex and unique operations with the food service, lodging, all the different things, the large gift shop. It's just a set of requirements that's very different from what a lot of different businesses need when you look at the whole picture.
Yeah, and Sam actually, just to, then we'll move on, but Sam made a really good point around compliance. So let's assume I am a big winery and I need a big CRM, so I'm going to use Salesforce. Well, I probably have to worry about compliance issues. Salesforce doesn't know anything about that. All they know is customers and orders and opportunities. That's the language that they use. So now you have to build, or somebody's got to build a compliance engine into that also. Is this customer at their limit of what we can sell them for this time frame? Are there allocation rules that the CRM needs to know about? Something that's winery specific conceptually would have that information already in it, and so it'd be much more efficient for you guys.
Okay, question here.
So does the system, like, since everyone is largely using QuickBooks, does the system have a good accounting system that emulates QuickBooks built into it, or are we still using two disparate systems?
So something like Nexternal, what I was showing, and I'm not here to sell Nexternal right now, I'll sell it to you in a few minutes, but anyway, this is not an accounting system, so we never, accounting's a different animal, so you should still, I mean, most of our clients in the wine industry use QuickBooks, and so this doesn't replace QuickBooks. The data collected in here will get sent to QuickBooks. Hey, QuickBooks, this is what we've done, and so then your bookkeeper, your accounting can do what they need to do from a accounting perspective. So no, this talks to QuickBooks, but it doesn't replace it.
Can you provide a real-world example of how this has helped any particular vineyard winery system, specifically going in, looking at the dashboard and looking at an outlier somewhere, going back and investigating and finding out the why, making a change and finding out that that change has worked or not worked? Do you have an example of something like that?
Yeah, the one it's a simple example, but the one that I like because I hear it time and time again is I think a lot of people think about, okay, I've got my tasting room and then I've got online, and they're two different things, and they don't really cross-pollinate. And we see time and time again that's not true, because what happens is online, let's assume you sell gift cards for your tasting room, and lots of our winery clients do. They don't sell them online because they don't think, well, who would go online to buy a gift card? Only people buy gift cards when they're in the physical store. And then the first thing they see once they fire this up, gift cards. It's like the #1 search result time and time again, and they don't have them because, well, why would somebody buy a gift card online to use, to give to somebody to use at my physical location? As soon as they turn that on, it becomes their bestseller or top 3. I mean, it depends on the winery, but we see that. I mean, it's just so repeatable. It's kind of a joke for us now, but we see that constantly. So it's a simplistic example, but it's a super powerful one. It's easier for people to understand that. Hey, we didn't think somebody would use this channel to buy some. We didn't think somebody would use the online channel to buy something for the physical channel, but it happens all the time.
All right, next question.
I was wondering if you are looking at trying to integrate as completely as you can, if there's certain areas of specialization, cloud specialization, that you might want to look at first and build from there. In 2010, I was working with a winery that was changing platforms because they ran into a dead end with integration. And so they went to Vin 65 and ship compliant and was able to pretty closely get almost everything they needed. But it did seem like certain, like ship compliant was like, at the time, kind of like at the top of that particular specialization. So I'm wondering if at this point there's more options and less of a concern about that kind of thing, or if you should look at it that way and kind of do your research and try to build from one point.
Yeah, great question. And assuming I fully understand really the core of your question, the question's around, you know, is there a system I should look at to kind of do everything for me, or am I better off finding best of breed solutions and tying them together? I mean, is that a fair description? So I think both myself and Sam would argue that you're better off finding the best tools that you need and then having a system that ties them together. And that's what Sam and his company, I mean, that's what they specialize in. Because otherwise, to find the one system that does everything, I mean, I haven't seen it, and I know, I just haven't seen that. And then people try to take something's going to be really good in one area, and then they try to make it work in these other areas too, and then they just keep running into roadblocks. I mean, that's something we see often. And, you know, just like the question before, I would argue, at least for me, putting on my sales hat for 1 second, even though I'm not supposed to, I would argue this is the best system in the world for wineries, but we're not an accounting system. Like, sometimes people try to use us in an accounting system, but that's not what we do, and then they run into issues. And we have shipping tools built in, we have great shipping tools built in, but we're not ship compliant. If the compliance around shipping is important to you, we integrate with ship compliance. So yeah, try to find one thing to do everything for everybody all the time. I've just never seen that.
Yeah, I'll expand a little bit. Again, this is what I've done for 20 years, is enterprise application integration and enterprise architecture. Enterprise architecture being about saying, you know, what's your technology architecture today? Where should it be in 3 to 5 years to support your business mission, instead of the other way around? People very often bring in technology and have to wrap their business around the technology instead of getting the technology that does just what they want it to do. But then what the enterprise architect does is work with the producer year over year to make trade-off decisions, because you can't boil the ocean all at once. You can only solve one problem, but you don't want to you don't want to spend any more than you have to today, but you don't want to paint yourself into a corner where you've got to throw things out in a year or two to get to the next business advantage. Maybe you want to open up food service. Maybe you're thinking about opening up a brewery as part of your operation. So there's over the years, I've seen there's basically, once you get the idea of integration, there's another level that I think is worth talking about of nuance there. When people started integrating, they did what are called point-to-point integrations. You integrate this system with that system, this system with that system, and pretty quickly you've got a spider web mess, and it's just not sustainable. So the better way that technologists have come up with is what's called a hub and spoke architecture. So you've got a hub in the middle, and you've got these spokes tying into whatever you want, and that's our cloud that integrates other clouds. So we sit in the middle, and we can keep on integrating different systems. And so Craig touched on it before. I mean, depending on the system, it could be a couple months, but I didn't want to make that promise, because integration is a lot more complicated than it seems on the outside, and that's something that's is a problem for integration, because people say, oh, you've got an API, you can just plug things together. And no, there's a lot more that goes on in what's called message-oriented middleware, which is that stuff in the middle and dealing with moving data around between systems. So.
And the final point I'll make on this topic is sometimes there's this concept where if I get like an all-in-one solution, it's simpler, it's all in one place. But actually it's more complicated, because now you have this one thing trying to do everything for everybody. So, well, now my accountant has to go to the same system as the person who's trying to do email promotions, let's say, and the email person working on marketing is super confused because there's all this accounting stuff in their way, and vice versa. And so now you start having everything becomes, instead of just like a product area, the product area also has to include accounting information, marketing information, and it starts just getting real complicated for people to figure out what's the piece they need to work on, as opposed to, hey, you're in accounting, you're going into QuickBooks. You're in sales, you're going into our marketing tool, And so sometimes having the specialization of products that works together, one, works better, and two, it makes it easier for your staff.
One more quick point. If you have everything in one system, that ends up being a single point of failure for everything. So really having multiple best-of-breed systems is the best thing for your company to have a robust, reliable, infrastructure going forward. So you've got, a global company that's focused on point of sale, dealing with your point of sale stuff, and they aren't getting distracted trying to be everything to everybody. You've got a global company handling some other piece. So I'm blanking on the word, but it's robust. It helps you stay in business and be flexible.
We have time for one more question.
In front, maybe?
In either of your opinions, is there like an optimal amount of softwares that you would want to implement for a small and medium business to kind of keep yourself in a, not going overboard with the number of softwares, but really accomplishing your goals and solving your problems?
I'll give my opinion first. So for a small, so keeping production off to the side, because that's something that you guys know a lot about probably, but I don't. But from a sales and marketing perspective, I really look at 3 pieces of software. I've got my point of sale system, I have my online system, and then I have my accounting system. So I like 3 to answer that question.
Yeah, I'd say it all depends on what your business mission is and where you are. I mean, for sure, the 3 Craig mentioned are the core ones. That's your commerce systems. But I'll give you an example. One of our customers said, you know what, on the wholesale end, which is a much bigger part of our business, we want true CRM. We want it, which, and from my perspective, true CRM is a system that has a sales pipeline. You've got a process, you can manage your salespeople and for the bigger opportunities. And so he said, I want this all to work well together. And so that was his priority. So it really all depends on what your priorities are. And I wouldn't say there's any, those 3 are required. That you can't do commerce without being able to sell online and point of sale and an account for it. But it all depends on what you want to do with the business.
Good. Okay, Sam, Craig, thank you very much.
Thank you.